Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Get early access to all of our interviews, including the monthly Chichester Chats with writer and comic book legend DG Chichester, new episodes of classic Capes and Lunatics shows, including The Quantum Zone, This, That, or the Third, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
This is DG Chichester, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another month of the Chichester Chats. I am Phil, and she is Lilith, and of course, the man of the hour every month. It is Mr. D. Chichester.
I need that voice from your opening all the time, like just that kind of that echo effect and, the resonant thing. Yeah, exactly. Like punching it out. So I could do that. I could always speak in my announcer voice. Hello, Phil. Hello, Lilith. Good to see you both. Nice to be back.
Well, the best Casey Kasem. Love it.
And let's go with America Top 40. All good.
This issue of Axel's Inferno is dedicated to a young boy from Florida.
Yeah.
All right. So, of course, yes, we are talking Daredevil for obvious reasons.
We are.
Obvious
reasons.
Slave to the algorithm. What can we say?
So, before we jump in, I guess we can get this out of the way. We wanted to ask your thoughts on the show because we've gotten the uncensored thoughts of a Mr. Greg Wright. So how do you feel about the show?
There are no censored thoughts of Greg Wright. So it's always you could just go straight with the thoughts of Greg Wright. This will take up the whole show. We can just go down this road since I'm too lazy and preoccupied to join you in your real time things. That's not true.
It's late at night. We totally
because we're maniacs. We're maniacs.
It's late at night, and I'm on other projects. But So I haven't listened to the, to your guys' views. I picked up on it, in social, and I've talked to Greg. So I know you're all bullish on it. I think it's good. It's a very solid show. I'm coming off it. I just did, I'm watching Reacher, and I just did a binge watch of Andor, to catch up for that. So those are pretty tight shows. Those are really, really, really tight shows, Andor especially, but even Reacher, in my mind, in its totally expected, structure, is extraordinarily well done in the way it nails every moment. It sets it up, it pays off. It sets it up, it pays off. Born Again is, like I said, it's to me, it's very solid. The performances are top notch. You cannot get better chemistry. You cannot get better casting. There's great stuff there down the line. But solid is about I'm as good as I'm going to go right now. I haven't rewatched the Netflix ones, in years, since they came out. But I recall feeling right from the get-go on the Netflix sort of a different energy, and I know the Netflix shows took a lot of, heat for where's the costume, where's this, but there was a certain vibe there that I'm kind of missing from Born Again a little bit. And that could just be memory, that could be nostalgia, and the fact that, my God, we've got a Daredevil show, and that left a deep impression on me. But there's some nits, to this that kind of threw me off a little bit, and that's not to pick on it, because again, it's a solid show. I'm watching it. I want to know what happens. I want to see where it goes. I think the Foggy death was, unless it's been faked, was unearned. And by that I mean, I know it's great that they're kind of picking up on this as if it's the fourth season and you're rolling into it, but it's the fourth season, what, 6 years later, 8 years later. I don't know who Foggy is, and 3 minutes of bromance in a bar doesn't give me the impact of that. I don't know Daredevil's powers. A lot of people would say that's clear from your writing, but that's not true. But I got to dig at myself at some point. But so, when I see that opening action and he's doing the swing around CGI stuff, is he Spider-Man? Like, I needed some cutaways to the billy clubs, expanding, snapping apart, doing something so that I understand, there's a visual component there, right? I think that should have kind of come through to not have like narration, but sort of establishment. So you're kind of getting the vibe. And I feel a little bit like the same thing with the powers, the hypersenses, where they're doing the hearing stuff. Great. They did the hearing stuff right off the bat really well in the bar, where it zoomed in on the ear and he's listening and such. But pretty much, I think if you've watched the first 3 episodes, you think he's a blind guy in a red suit sometimes, who's got hearing powers. And, I don't know about the rest of it. And I remember early on in the Netflix show, and again, I could be misremembering, but there was that, they played it differently. They had that whole heat pattern, like living, he sort of described it.
World on fire. Yeah.
Yeah. World on fire. Right. But you got a sense that the world, everything was there for him except his sight. And I think that's really important. And there could be more of that, to sort of play out, things, just to get him out there more, to understand that. And so, they got many more episodes to go, and I'm sure they'll get to it and build it out. But I'm kind of missing those moments to cinch it for me more. And that doesn't take away the enjoyment. That doesn't, I'm knitting with you guys, but I'm not digging at the show saying, oh, what the hell they're doing. Although I think the last episode, somebody was spending too much time watching that House of Dragons, which never has dragons in it. And you got a whole episode where you didn't have Daredevil in it, which doesn't mean we need a Daredevil action scene, but I need some more Daredevil something, even though he's not being Daredevil right now. I think that I know there was that was sort of the retooling of the show at one point, right? Whoever the original showrunners were doing almost like a court procedural, and Daredevil was going to show up now and again. And obviously they started off hard with Daredevil, and now he's given up being Daredevil and whatever. But you got like a big action scene in number 2 when he goes up against the cops. I think it's important to have something of him there, in terms of that quality of him, that, plays out in one way or another, some kind of consideration, some conversation with somebody. And, I question the Karen thing too. It's like, did they bring these guys back just to total fan service, check the box ahead of time? I mean, he needs somebody to talk to about what he's going through, I feel. And he doesn't have Foggy. He doesn't have Karen right now. We're not doing the confessional, apparently. And I need that. I think he needs that, to explore aspects of his character, beyond the rage screams, which I'm, feeling a little like, okay, he's an angry man.
Something beyond rubbing that horn.
Yeah, rubbing that horn, right? It's like, look, rubbing that horn. That's the euphemism that we're going to go with. So, that's probably why it's good I'm not on your real-time viewings, because that would be the, Danny Downer, for the moment, which is, again, I'm not picking at it. I am picking at it, but I'm not. I would certainly not say to anybody, don't bother. I would certainly not say it sucks. It's not, oh my God, they took the team from the Acolyte, and put it on, Daredevil. It's not there, but it's a
Star Wars show, Phil.
Yeah, it's a horrible Star Wars show. Never ever watch it, Phil. So I'm really curious where they go with it, and I think the White Tiger thing was. I love the character. I love the actor. I know that he passed away and they couldn't do more with him, but I thought that was I thought that was I did not care for that. I did not care for, setting all that up, getting this guy free, and then just killing him. You could argue it's a, but it's a shocker, but it just felt like a huge, cheat, and cheat about what he was, and a cheat about what Matt accomplished, by actually being a decent lawyer for a change, where he usually is so distracted that Foggy's got to carry the burden. But Foggy's obviously not here right now.
Yeah, because that's probably gonna be a whole plot device. Matt's guilt gets him back in the suit or whatever, right?
Yeah, they'll yeah, there might be about that. Who knows? It's whatever's going to happen with the, what are they going to do with this Punisher? That obviously that was not the Punisher. It's Punisher wannabes. Does that drag him back in? Does Frank drag him back in? Maybe Frank does. We get them together again. That's great chemistry. That's a great dynamic. That rooftop scene, from the Netflix show, continues to stand out. Any of the scenes between them, Frank giving him shit, is could be trigger enough alone, to like go to the Daredevil cave or whatever he has and look at all his cows lined up, and and so or what happens with with Fisk's vigilante task force thing. Does that become the impetus because more people like White Tiger are getting taken off the street? So White Tiger or others presumably have been carrying the burden while Daredevil's been out of the picture. If they're all being rounded up or driven away, does that become the thing? Where are you, devil of Hell's Kitchen, and that kind of thing. So the little kid from the Superman trailer puts up a little Daredevil flag or something, and he draws them in. So yeah, so I'm admitting jadedness again from kind of coming off I think 2 top-notch shows, and that's where I went right into it. But I'm enjoying it, but I'm not feeling it yet.
I think my biggest issue with the show is that Matt's not my favorite character like I thought he would be. Like I find myself just wanting more Fisk. I love the girlfriend. So
yeah, no, well, I mean, they're amazing performers. And Vincent D'Onofrio's take on it is top notch. And inherently, Murdoch is not a likable character.
Yes,
I think that's true throughout everything. Matt's a very flawed character. He's constantly at odds with himself. He's struggled. He's a horn dog. He's full of hubris. Yeah, exactly. He's full of hubris. He's he's looking out for people, but he's going between his different mandates and how they sort of conflict with each other.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole foundation of the character, he's a lawyer, who's supposed
when justice doesn't go your way, I'm just gonna fix
it
anyway.
Yeah. Right. And what softens him, and makes him human is when he's got people around him who center him, and that's why I think you need the Foggies or the or the Karens or somebody's like that. I don't think this partner of his is doing that job right now, or his girlfriend, who I'm pretty sure going to die soon, and
just waiting for the fridge. We all know.
Maybe, hopefully not. Or the priest. I thought the priest in the Netflix show was terrific. He was a great foil. Literally working out those issues, between them. Was a great way to sort of externalize the monologue, as it were, thought balloons, or however you want to interpret them. And those dialogues they had were really powerful. So and did not feel like they were stopping the show. It was like, oh, suddenly let's talk about this. They always felt really meaningful and impactful to the things he was kind of working out and going through. So but on his own, Matt's a tough sell. And so I think, Lilith, your sensibility is right. And Fisk is obviously a sociopath at best, but he is utterly beguiling, right? Because of his twitches and
I just want to know if he drank his Kool-Aid or if it's all just a scam. Like, it's hard to say with this take so far. So I want to see which way they're gonna go with that one.
I don't know if they're if you go back to the original and you follow, he believed that. He believed he was doing the greater good, right? There was that hubris of like, I'm the protector of the city, whatever. And I'm not going to try and do a Vincent D'Onofrio, but
you got to do the hands, according to Greg.
Yeah,
you got to do the hands.
the hands, the twitch, and the little things, and that's a full body performance, that he's doing, and I think that. I do think that that's part of him. He believes in himself versus, and what he's doing for the city and the world is for the greater good. And anyone who gets in the way is obviously wrong. Now, his shift will be from, saying to Vanessa, we don't do that anymore. We don't operate that way anymore. To then continuing his mission by re-embracing that, plus it's sort of like, if you know the Clint Eastwood movie Unforgiven,
yes.
Where 3/4 of the movie, like William Money's character is like, I'm not that guy anymore, Ned. I'm not that guy anymore, Ned. It's like,
the lady doth protest too much.
Exactly. I don't do that no more. Ain't you the William Money from, Missouri who kills women and children? So, but yeah, I mean, it's bulletproof on the characters, and bulletproof on the performances, and again, structurally, there's, it's not a train wreck. It's not an acolyte, which is a train wreck. I'll pick on that all day. And horrible construct. But there's just some, I think, shows that do incredibly great jobs of setting up, paying off, and I don't feel this has quite found its rhythm, yet in that way. But what do you got?
Season 2, so even if they don't quite nail it, I think by the second season, most shows kind of know where they want to go with it.
Right.
But it's a little hard making a Disney Plus show, especially at the rating level too. So I think it's just like finding the boundaries, what the audience is not going to complain about and what the audience will complain about, kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, it is Disney.
I will disagree with that, Lilith, only because, again, watching Andor again, it's a pitch perfect show. It's
well, the Star Wars fans will complain louder than the Marvel fans. I will just.
They can do whatever they want. But but then it's possible within that construct. I think there's a little bit of the Marvel bad news things, that presumption of going into it, knowing who Daredevil is, and all the stuff at the beginning, and like, look, we're doing fan service, and you got what you want. You got more jumping around. You got some action. You got some rage. We brought Bullseye back. Are we ever going to see Bullseye again, or was that it? I don't know.
No, he's definitely coming back. Season finale.
I hope so. But so I can't. Disney Plus seems to have a lot of latitude, with what's going on that, menu selection, and it's up to the showrunners to, deliver on it. And I think it obviously had something of a rocky start when they had to stop and then retool. But again, I don't want to sound negative on it. I'm not negative on it as like an experience. But did you guys like it? I mean, you obviously, you're obviously more
I mean,
bullish
for
on it.
me coming in, like I had to binge watch the Netflix shows, all
Mm.
of them except for Iron Fist. And I feel like if I hadn't done that, it would have been a disservice to myself. I feel like Marvel just assumes, like, especially like same thing kind of with like Captain America 4 too. It's like they just want you to have seen everything, and sometimes it's just
Right.
not possible. So I feel I haven't met anybody who hasn't watched the Netflix show. Like everybody felt obligated to binge it. So I just want to know,
Mm-hmm.
like, what people who didn't see it, like, then you would miss out a lot. Like the
Right.
it's there, but like the subtleties and the nuances of it all really
Right.
won't hit you if you haven't.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of opportunity they could have inserted. I think the Tom DeFalco or Shooter, Jim Shooter, used to say, famously, like, every comic is somebody's first issue, right? So you've got to lay the groundwork to some extent, which doesn't again mean stopping it cold or going back to an origin story, but the the Uric thing would have been a way to do things. Is that who's that supposed to be? His daughter,
Niece,
niece,
I don't
they
know.
haven't really defined, but I'm assuming it's niece. I think she
niece,
said it
right?
was her. I think Kingpin said it was her uncle.
Okay. So that's a kind of a cool little, device they're doing. There could have just been a little thing about Daredevil, right? With news footage, and clips and whatever, and found footage, type things that could have set up some parameters around them if they needed a little bit more groundwork, especially about, that he's missed. But that could have been a little laying out of what he represents, not his powers, obviously, because people don't know that, but I think there could have been, even with Karen in the hospital, some touch base on some of that. Anyway, what about you, Phil? How did you how's it been jiving for you?
I mean, I like it. Again, I know it's not a perfect thing, but no, I've been enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for more, actual Daredevil, Matt in costume, and
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, this last one was episode 3. We're only getting 9 episodes. We're a third of the way through, and he's put on the costume once.
Right at the beginning. They ran to that. I also love that costume. I like the costume. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, it's like I got to run away to take care of Bullseye, who's on the way. Where do you go to change into that? It's like, where's that thing stashed? He doesn't even have like a briefcase to carry it in.
It's like you see clothes falling from the roof because he's like changing.
Exactly.
He's like hanging on to the Billy Club. Yeah,
exactly. That could be cool. But so it will be, if it's just carried on the performances, alone, it will, be successful. But it could be a bit more,
yeah,
and pay off, its beats, I think, better. And hopefully that's the case, as it kind of like finds the next things as they bring it in, and hopefully do not get too overwhelmed with some of these subplot-ish things.
Mm-hmm.
The Punisher stuff's gonna be great just because of the chemistry between them, but you see it's already that subplot of whatever, the Magnum Force Punisher, wannabes, and how much is that going to dominate stuff? How much we're going to have to deal with that as like a distraction side thing? But maybe that's what pulls Daredevil back into it.
And maybe we'll bring Karen back in, because those two had a lot of scenes like in the Netflix stuff.
Yeah, they had great chemistry too. Yeah, so definitely maybe she's coming back around for that. That would be awesome. I mean, that would be really cool, because I just don't. Those characters were great. Everyone's jazzed they're here, and you just don't want it to have been that first episode. Like, yeah, they were in it, and now she's off to San Francisco. Yeah, kind of. Goodbye.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Yes, let's talk some comics.
Comic books
by a young writer back in the day.
There they are. And speaking of the Punisher and Daredevil,
what perfect timing, actually.
My God, look at that.
Oh yeah, your first 2 issues of Daredevil. I believe. Did you say you have like the pitch? You like that? You actually still have the pitch? You
Yes, I took your guys' suggestion, and you know, so if you subscribe to my newsletter now, you get this the original series pitch, which won me the book, is the giveaway now. So if you subscribe to storymaze.substack.com, you get the original coffee stained Rico note scrolled across the cover, you know, literal scan. One of the few things I actually had in hard copy that I could, you know, maintain from back in the day somehow by some miracle. So it's the pitch that won the day, and whoever else was up against it besides Greg, you know, like it's what got Ralph to call me back and say, "You got the book, boy." So
yeah, like I'm always interested in that stuff, but especially after Greg said, yeah, he pitched for it too, and he said he had some similar themes, but he even said, he goes, I read Dan's, and he says Dan's was way better. So they're like, they made the right decision giving Dan the book. So
yeah, and Greg's not going to say that, you know, believe me. If
hey
if he
man,
doesn't, he does not believe it. There's no yeah. He ain't
I
gonna
mean,
say
it's nice having honest friends who won't kiss your, just kiss your butt for, they'll tell you the truth. Hello, Lilith.
exactly.
But yeah, and again, you didn't start off slow. I mean, look at your first two
No, like
issues.
literally Taskmaster. What a chef's kiss choice against Daredevil, you know, and then Tombstone. I was just like, oh, this is so interesting.
And the Punisher, yeah.
Yeah, you know,
And you got the start of, oh hey, Kingpin scheming something.
it's well, this would have been, you know, like, while Last Rites is technically, you know, the Fall of the Kingpin story is technically, you know, the 4 that lead up to 300. How was the count on that? 260,
297.
297. Yeah, I can't count. I got to do it. You know, this was the setup for that, right? This is starting to kind of pull elements from that proposal and put them into you know, into work. So this is you know, this is hitting the ground hard, and this is, you know, this is also finding what I thought I wanted to do with the character, and
you were clearing the rabble.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, it was to clear there, exactly, but it's there's and I knew that Lee was enthused about going back to call it Daredevil basics. You know, he'd been working with Anne, who's obviously a phenomenal writer, but I don't know that, you know, her sometimes more existential stories or whatever were exactly what Lee was looking for. So when I kind of got on, and I don't know if he had read the proposal or we had just talked, you know, when it was this kind of like back to basics, you know, hit the street hard type of Daredevil approach, and we're going to lead up to 300, and 300 is going to be a big deal and a big issue, and it's all going to be about taking down the Kingpin. You know, he was very enthused. So I think you kind of see that in both of our contributions, you know, to this. I mean, I read this, you know, in prep for this, and I was, you know, it's like, yeah, that guy was very confident what he was doing, and, and mostly knew what he was doing, which is, as you know, unique for me to kind of read something and feel that. I mean, I don't know what you guys felt looking at it, but it felt very, you know, very precise in where it was going.
This is a story that holds up. I love the fluidity, the kinetic energy, just things just boiling and bubbling.
Yeah, I mean, it's the, you know, it has the, it had the benefit
setup.
It has the benefit also of that proposal. I mean, I think it'll, you know, it's able to draw from that bigger roadmap and then start to say, okay, how do you get here? Here's the specific, you know, waypoints to make what I had described there, you know, happen. Although the specific, you know, a lot of the specifics were not in that proposal, you know, to my mind. I don't think it had him later seducing, you know, Typhoid Mary and things like that, but it certainly had some of those elements suggested at. So that helps. That helps you kind of like say, oh, well, how do I get there?
Oh yeah, I love it because again, like I said, I started reading Daredevils like in like the last year or so of Anne's run, but then this comes in. I mean, it's different than Anne's, but again, it wasn't such a dramatic shift where I was like, wait, what are we doing now? But no, I mean, it seemed to flow smoothly. After Anne's run, and just all the
Oh
great
yeah.
stuff, and yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, because I enjoyed Anne's run, and I've come to
Mhm.
appreciate Anne's work even more over the years as I've gotten smarter. Uh, but there was no way I wanted to disrespect anything she had done,
Yeah.
or like invalidate it, or say, what the hell happened, or cut up her issues or her costume with a pair of scissors. So there was none of that.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to put your own stamp on a book when you jump on, Otherwise, people would be like, "Why is this guy trying to be Anne?"
Yeah, yeah. And there's no, I mean, I think, to some extent I was not emulating Frank Miller, but I mean, I was hugely impressed with Frank Miller's approach to it. And I think I've said that before, that rawness and that kind of approach, coupled with a sort of a Scorsese approach to New York, were probably my guideposts, and what I was trying to achieve with the tone of the book.
Daredevil gives a guy Chinese water torture. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. And he plays around with it, and there's little stupid in jokes like that. The Mad Dog Cass is named after a high school friend of mine, and Peter Chin is named after some guy I used to meet at a computer store and talk about early digital stuff with every couple of weeks. So there are little gifts to people I knew throughout that one.
And then of course, the Nick Fury writer had to drop some stuff in because it's after Fisk is like, who are these guys he's dealing with, and then someone tapping a monocle on the desk is like, okay.
Well, that's Strucker.
Yes.
Yeah. But
what would go on to be a staple. I love when he shows
yeah,
up in your stories.
yeah. Yeah, I obviously had to have big heart for the Baron, but Lee's artwork is so confident. It's just, I mean, obviously he had been working on the book for a bit anyway, but I think that's what's always impressive about going
Do you have
back
the
for me.
cover, Phil? Can you throw up the cover?
Oh yeah.
I love this cover. I want this as a poster, actually.
Wait, which one? 292 or 293?
293.
Well, there's both. Yeah. Oh yeah, 293. Yeah, that could be a poster.
No, I should make that into a poster for conventions.
Mhm.
But I think there's still time for the next one. But his single images are great, but his storytelling is amazing.
Yeah.
It just feels so confident and so right and and substantial, right? There's weight to everything he does, and the way that his characters move and interact, and when things break and collapse and whatever else, he just delivers. And it was just such an experience to have that type of art coming at me and working with it. Not that I had not worked with really good people, right? I mean, I had
But
worked
sometimes
with
you just click and it clicks.
yeah. This was no. I mean, we've always said, and I think Lee would agree. This was lightning in a bottle. Like this was like two people at exactly the right time, in exactly the right wavelength. To accomplish something like this.
Oh yeah, and I mean, especially like a lot of these characters are so like physical, especially like Taskmaster, like that fight with Daredevil and Taskmaster.
Mm-hmm.
Expertly done, just
Yeah, fun character. Fun character. I mean, really, like him,
And
Tombstone. I
not
mean, they were just
overused. Like not an overused villain. Some people have like a tendency to like want to keep using the same villains over and over. But Taskmaster is very underutilized, so I did
right.
appreciate that choice.
I think if he's tough, though, if you use him too much, and especially up against the same hero or whatever, you're running into well, he's going to win.
Yes.
So it's tricky, to play it out, too much. It's not like he resets, between levels or between issues. He's still got that backlog. But I love rereading it, and the scene where he's actually bedridden, and recovering from the injuries. I just love his attitude, and his whole vibe, and Matt sneaking into the hospital as like, a patient and a blind guy and stumbling around. To me, that was I had forgotten about that, and I like that. I like, I guess I've always liked Matt as a manipulator, and I don't know that that's always played up as much, but I think I always did to a certain extent, and I like him. I like when he manipulates situations as much as responds them. And this whole story is obviously about manipulation ultimately.
And again, leading up to 300, it's like not only are the Kingpins going down, but it's getting Matt's law license back, because again, I think people sometimes forget he hasn't been an actual lawyer since like Frank Miller's
Since
Born Again.
Right. So the story, yeah, I mean, the story was never pitched as a sequel to Born Again, but it was, it certainly was setting things right for Matt from the law point of view, and just setting things, you know, making good on the threat was probably the primary thing, and the threat being, the constant storylines with Kingpin of like, cross the line and you're going down, and then he would cross the line again. And nobody would do anything to him. So, that starts to render stories ineffectual. And so, it's a small conceit, but it was a powerful one, to really, do it unequivocally and go all in. And clearly it was satisfying to, readers as well, to kind of get that comeuppance in that way.
And I think we discussed this before, but your love of Tombstone, because I'm trying to remember.
Tombstone in a clown costume works for me.
It's so funny because he's wearing the same suit. He doesn't change his suit. He just paints
exactly. He just does the thing. Yeah, he could have been going to a Juggalo concert, I guess, and that would be an awesome story, Insane Clown Posse, like, in Tombstone.
Yeah, because I was trying to remember, because I think you might be one of the, if not the first person to use Tombstone outside of a Spider-Man, because he had been like basically just a Spider-Man villain before, up till this point.
I don't know. I mean, he's a great character. He's fun, and and I liked playing with that whole aspect of him. It's a little ham-fisted, but I think mostly it works. Where he just wants to belong to something. Like that's like an important component, which kind of elevates, him just being, a wicked badass, type of thing. So there's something, there's something a little, doesn't take away the horrific things he's done, or but it does give it a motivation, to it. Whereas Taskmaster's just having fun, as he admits. I don't give a shit,
A booby trapped pie. I love it.
Yep.
That just fits Tombstone for me. I'm sorry. It's always like he thinks out of the, he literally thinks outside of the box. So like, it just
outside of the pie box, outside of the cream pie box.
Oh my! I just like the whole like circus, like scene in the middle of like what is that, Grand Central Station?
Grand Central.
It happens, like, bro. In New York, they will throw up a festival in any alley they can get their hands on.
Yeah.
You'll be on like the 6th floor, you'll just see a Ferris wheel. It's so true. They throw it up anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, like, they turned the space into giant, Christmas, markets, and it's and that was one of the conceits of the proposal too, was to use more of New York. We use New York as like character scenes, and places, and neighborhoods, and ultimately I wouldn't do that as much afterwards, but certainly settings like that, become strong places as opposed to just generic, rooftops or generic, lots or something like that. So that was, just a great thing, and you can see how well Lee captures, the sense of space and really puts you in it and gets the right angles on it. And
Oh yeah.
of course, that would become like a huge part of 300, where we, tore up Port Authority. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, outlandish, but like you said, Lilith, they almost do things like that.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, no, the fight scenes are great in these, especially yeah, that scene, the Punisher's just sticking his gun barrel through the roof, just gonna want to get a gun down Tombstone, and Daredevil pulls him through. Just the two of them falling, just
Right. It's a little bit reckless, Daredevil, I guess, on Matt's part, to grab the gun where it can't really go anywhere except at him, hoping the roof's going to break in time. So I probably could have gone back in and tweaked that a little bit, where he sort of senses the stress fractures in the old whatever that roof is made of, to know it's gonna work, or it's got to work, because at some point Frank's just going to pull the trigger and just say, enough, and,
yeah, fanatic Frank. The station's probably full, but I'm just gonna gun down Tombstone from the roof here.
right. Well, he'd be fine, right? But like,
Yeah.
with Matt, he'd be, he wouldn't, I don't think, endanger, an innocent.
Oh, no,
and he'd be
yeah.
a marksman and hit Tombstone. That would be fine. But if Daredevil's in the way, literally holding onto the end of the barrel of the gun, it's like, well, your costume's already red. Who's going to notice?
And again, I mean, you pack so much stuff in here because, again, the whole Tombstone Taskmaster thing, setting up the hand.
Right. And then the hand shows up at the end. Yeah. And then you get into that, that twist, or that, next level of it. And the, quote unquote strang, the front for Hydra, doing my best Foghorn Leghorn voice, because that's, if you read it with the Foghorn Leghorn voice from the old Looney Tunes cartoons, then you understand where he's coming from. I say, Mr. Fisk, I say, I have a deal for you.
Yeah, Mr. Fisk.
Yeah, that's who he's that's who his speech pattern's based on. So
every time I read it, I'm just so amused, because I'm like, so Strucker basically sends one of his guys in and be like, oh yeah, give him the old, pretend you're just like some rich hillbilly.
Right. And
so your job as a member of Hydra is just, do the accent, and it's just real Fisk.
just so he can break into the computer systems. It's like, yeah, it's a very early, form of Doge, so it's like, trying to, instead of a South African accent, it's a, hillbilly, accent. So.
Oh, gee, why he's staying there like this? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time I see that, I'm like, okay, we get it. You're a super villain. Okay.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah, it's like, or the Mike Myers version. $1 billion, $1 billion. It's yeah, we passed the point of actually being able to write anything, because the most outlandish things have happened. So there's no real ability.
I don't know. Black Mirror's back with season 7. So
is it? Did it come out?
I saw the trailer. It's coming out soon. Yeah. 6 new stories.
Cool.
About damn
I
time.
hope it's. I didn't like the last one. I didn't like the. I thought the last.
I mean, we're
season,
so far into the dystopia that it's hard to imagine
Yeah.
anything worse at this point.
Yeah, but they didn't do. Yeah, I didn't think they did as good a job. It felt like just kind of like leftover Twilight Zone or Outer Limits episode.
I haven't really cared for it since it got Americanized. I mean, they have some good ones, but the seasons haven't been as solid. So I hope they kind of give us more of a.
Give it more of that, yeah, kind of playing out.
Exactly, more of a global feel than just specifically American dystopia.
Right. Yeah, we'll see. When it hits, it hits. I mean, it's got some great, great. I think there's some really great stories in that show, but so high hopes. We'll see what happens.
And I think, though, we're skipping over the most important part, that Easter egg in the first issue, writes laundry.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I indicated that. It must have just been
That's what I was
like,
gonna say. Was that your idea? Was that Lee's idea?
no, must have been Lee who put that in, or maybe Greg was talking to Lee, and but
Like, you know what'd be great?
yeah. I
Put
mean,
his,
if you ever
put his stamp on your first issue with Daredevil.
if you ever want to go deep down the Greg Wright rabbit hole, and I don't think we've ever talked about like the Nightbreed comics, but the villain in my first Nightbreed story is Greg, to the point of it looks like Greg, and it's because his name is Alan Reichgrig, so it's like that's the name. So it's it very much is Greg, drawn by Brett Blevins. So it's pretty awesome.
When we cover that, we should get Greg in here and be like, "Yeah, did you know that?"
He knows.
I know.
Yeah, there's I mean, I sent Brett photo. Brett knew Greg, but I made sure he had photo reference, and I said make the nose really big and all these kind of things. So.
Do all these people know you put them in your comics?
I think most of them did. Yeah, most of them
Poor
did.
Peter Chan was just there and gone.
I know.
Yeah, well, he still liked it. The fact he shows up in a comic book. The one thing, rereading it though, is like, and it was always I love Ralph, as an editor. He did a lot of good things for me, starting with giving me the book. But rereading it, I was reminded that office would make the stupidest changes in terms of like language things. I would have somebody, in the script, say, I'm not gonna put up with this BS anymore, or something like that, or whatever, and they would change it to like something like malarkey, or I mean, you'd never use actual swear words. You're not going to get away with anything, especially at that time. But anything that was mildly tough guy stuff or whatever would become words like squat or malarkey or things like that, or baloney, which I would never ever write at any point, unless I was maybe doing a Richie Rich comic or something. And so they jump out to me rereading it now, as like, there's a Ralph Office thing, It's like,
I mean, again, I know it's comic codes days, but that's just so funny. They edit all the language and stuff. But meanwhile, you can have Daredevil tricking Taskmaster getting hit by a taxi.
oh yeah, or like seducing, Typhoid Mary, in 3 issues or whatever. But but there was never any consultation of like, hey, we can't use BS, or we can't use bull, or we can't, whatever it might have been. And I would have gladly come up with some, alternates, but instead it was always just like, it would be changed and then you'd see it in print.
What a load of hooey.
Exactly. Like exactly. It's like, unless you're Bob Odenkirk, you're not going to get away with that either. So it's that was always like, but minor stuff.
Well, they're still kind of doing that, because like we were talking to Erica Schultz. She's writing a Electra mini.
Oh yeah.
Now, yeah. And the Red Band or whatever it is. And again, it's like, so it's like a mature book supposedly, but there's still if somebody swears, they still censor it and stuff. But there's literally people gushing buckets of blood, but they can't like say any bad words. And it's like,
right.
Even she's like, I don't know why they do that.
Well, I just stay away from it. I don't think it's like worthwhile. I don't want like, a scritchy thing, or a, Looney Tunes asterisk, ampersand, percentage sign, exclamation point or something. I mean, I remember checking with Devin Lewis on, Black Armor, and I want to say hell at one point, and I was like, can I say that? And he was like, yes, you can say that, and that's in there.
Then all of a sudden it's double HE double.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it did not become heck, whatever it was, he was like cool with it, as that. But I didn't try to get away with, shit or fuck or some kind of language, push
the
there.
George Carlin 7 words.
Yeah, and and there has to be use words to effect, and let or for I mean, just use words to effect, You know, what are you trying to do? I mean, there's a great scene in I think it's The Wire. You guys ever see The Wire? You know, the show.
Just not the last
And
season.
I think it's The Wire, but there's a great scene where two of the main detectives, um, you know, they're in an investigative scene, and you can censor all this out when you edit it if it's too much. But you know, the entire 3-4 minute scene is just the two detectives saying "fuck." You know, as they as they notice different things around the scene, like, you know, they're opening their fuck, you know, like, you know, look, opening a drawer, fuck, you know, looking at the body, fuck, and every single fuck is different. You know, the inflection's different, the meaning behind it is different, and it's just it's poetry, right? It's a great use of the word. Or if you ever saw the show Deadwood, you know, Al
I love
Swearingen,
Deadwood.
you know,
Although they
right?
couldn't use the historically accurate swear words because it was just like weird, but yeah. Yeah. They
Exactly.
used it to great effect, to your
But
point.
right, Al Swearingen's, you know, that character, that is sheer poetry, right? You know, like the use of the language there. But
Well,
you
Ian
know,
McShane.
well,
You
no,
know?
exactly, right? But you know, that's, if you're going to use the words, you know, have a meaning for them or use for them, versus you know, just kind of saying them, which I'm sure Erica did, but I don't know what the rules are with the Red Band Max stuff is. So
Well, just like all the pop culture, I swear it's like those American sensibilities, which are so weird. It's like, you know, don't say a naughty word or don't show like a naked human body, but we can show people getting decapitated left and right, and
Literally eviscerated.
yeah, dying in gruesome ways. But yeah, don't say a naughty word or show any nudity. Huh?
right. Yeah. Very very strange sensibilities, you know, depending on what goes with it. But here the most I had to worry about was malarkey and baloney and squat or whatever. But it's all. But no, I enjoyed going back and taking a tour on this one. This was you know, I was a
Pacing
little
is
bit.
just so great though. Like
Yes.
every time I read these, I'm just like, oh man, overall.
Thank you, Lilith. Yeah, no, I was a little worried, like going back and thinking like, oh man, this is the first foray. I bet you there's a little bit of a stumble or something, but it really,
No, you seem
like,
really inspired in this story. Like you knew where
yeah,
you wanted to go and you were getting there.
I did. I mean, I did. I knew we were getting to 300 and we were off to the races, and the timing wasn't, you know, there was no luxury timing. There was like not like a big buffer of like a bunch of Ann issues we're going to run. And, you know, I mean, maybe there was one or, you know, if that, like we were right on the schedule, so we had to get moving fast, as I recall.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. Like, how long between the time you pitched to the time you knew you had it and you had to start working? How was it a big lead time or no?
No, I mean, there was no lead time. I mean, I pitched it in, you know, Steve Bucelato, I think I've mentioned this before, you know, was the guy who called me at Thanksgiving and said, Ann's leaving the book, you should pitch it. And I was like, I'm not ready for I'm not ready for a real hero character. But so I pitched it, you know, around Thanksgiving, and I'm pretty sure I heard back from Ralph by late December at the latest, and it was just go. Like there was no like, okay, you'll start in April or something like that. It was like, you're on, go. I mean, it was just, and so we were right into it, and it was just start producing, you know, start telling the story and start doing it, and you know, making it happen. So I feel like we were, you know, we weren't late. You know, that book didn't come out like late before after 291, so there was still obviously some the normal publishing lead time, but we were right into the publishing queue.
And again, I'm not kissing your butt or anything. I remember when this hit the newsstand. That's still where I was getting newsstand. But yeah, I'd always have like, oh, Daredevil, I got to get this. I know I'm old shop.
No, newsstands are cool, man. I think
I
newsstands
miss
are
them.
like,
I do. I miss
I
spinner
miss them.
racks, the whole
Yes.
I
thing.
do too.
Yeah.
I went into a Barnes and Noble for the first time in like forever, and they still have a magazine section. You know, I don't think there's any comics on it, but
Sometimes you
actually
see a random few, but yeah, it's not like
yeah. But it was
section.
still fun to see like magazines. You know, I like that feeling of like, I used to love that. I used to love like going and then probably spending way too much money on just these magazines and leafing through them. And I think you lose that. You've lost a lot just by going to the direct market, not having any representation, out there. I mean, there are comic graphic novel sections at bookstores, obviously, and some of those are quite comprehensive, large in their own right. So maybe that's the better place for them, now. But there could probably still be some some titles to represent in that area to kind of lure people back down to the bigger graphic novel, comic section in the same store.
Yeah, I'm always saying, yeah, a lot of problems I think in the world would be solved if more people were reading.
Well, yes, but fortunately, we've got a real focus on education, as you know, in this country now. So there'll be a lot more of that. Why read when I can watch a lovely "This Is My Opinion" conspiracy video on YouTube? So we can go down that whole rabbit hole, and that'd be fun. So, but we're out time almost. So,
Yes.
Your
But
time is up.
not out of time to let you do some shameless plugs.
Let's do some shameless plugs. Okay, let's do it. My newsletter, which you can see up there, storymaze.substack.com, as we noted earlier. Not only am I writing it, which is a good thing you should do for newsletters, and so regular publications, but if you're into Daredevil, subscribe. It's free, and you get the original proposal for Daredevil, which won me the book. So a little bit of a time capsule, but a fun thing to kind of look at. If you're into some things that I'm doing now, if you go to tinyurl.com/Axel's Infernal, also up there on the screen, that's my Kickstarter Supernatural Truckers from Hell story. There it is. Looks good. Road to Hell never looked better. It's not launched on Kickstarter yet. We're trying to kind of generate signups for pre-launch. So you sign up for pre-launch, you get some news of day one exclusives and that sort of thing. So it costs you nothing, but it helps us show that there's some interest in it and kind of moves things along. So take a look at it, sign up if you would be so inclined. End of the month, this month, March 27th through 30th, I will be at the GalaxyCon in Richmond. Come on by, see what I've been doing Daredevil-wise on my 3D printer, and see some prints, maybe even that Punisher Daredevil cover we just saw, and talk story and autographs and all sort of other stuff. I'm doing some panels there as well, none of which are Daredevil oriented, oddly enough. So I'll just show up and do improv. And then just a little bit ahead of ourselves, but we'll get to it at some point. End of April, which is coming up sooner than you know it. A new comic from Black Box Comics called Risk, RYSK, which is a cyber heist thriller adventure. Whole new world. Manix Francisco is the artist. Looks pretty sleek and a lot of fun. And it's a 5-issue series that starts, I believe, on the 23rd. So long as Diamond doesn't screw over the publisher, which is not guaranteed. But if you check with your local comic shop, make sure they're ordering some copies. That's a lot to talk about. There you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got to talk. We got to talk that new comic when that comes out.
Yes, if I can get a preview copy out of Demetrios, I will get you guys one, and we can get into that. So it turned out really well. So
Awesome, can't wait.
And I was writing that concurrently with Black Armor, so that's that
interesting.
tells you how long that's been in the works.
But nah, so we were teasing it, we were hinting at it, but yeah, next month I think we're gonna do Follow the Kingpin that we were just talking about, Daredevil 2.
Oh, we're going right into the whole.
Will that be right on time? I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
Well, the show's
But it's
still
also
on.
an amazing story always. So
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into that. That's very cool. Lots to talk about there. All right, so that'll be the whole set, like the whole 4 issues, like the whole storyline, or like the okay. All right, so I'll just make sure I know what the heck I'm doing there. All right, we'll figure out the time, and we will set that up. All right, guys. As always, a pleasure. Great way to start a Saturday. It's a Saturday, right? And I will see you guys soon. Be well.
Thank you, sir.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
All right. The great DG
Woo!
Chichester yet again.
Of course,
Yes.
as always. Yeah.
All right. So now let's do our shameless plugs.
Throw it up.
He's doing important work. That's what crap
And
are
we're
we doing?
doing lunatic shit.
We're doing dick jokes. All right. Okay. So yeah. So
The best dick jokes on the internet, but dick jokes nonetheless.
yes. But yeah, send us your thoughts, and again, yeah, send us questions for Dan. Again, next time, follow the Kingpin. So CapesandLunatics@gmail.com, or call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And again, you can find pretty much everything we've ever done at CapesLunatics.wordpress.com. And again, you can rain random money on us. Swear to love hellfire and rain random money on us through the Cash App link.
Make it rain.
And of course, our Patreon, where again you get exclusive, uncensored content every month. And when you subscribe, you can request topics for us to discuss. So yeah, tell us what to do at patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. And Dan Chichester is not the only one making a con appearance. Lilith, where are you appearing?
I'll be at AwesomeCon in our nation's capital on April 4th at 4 p.m. in room 206 with author Nick DeWolf, Slaying Stereotypes.
And also ask questions like, you could ask Capes and Lunatics questions like, is Phil as insufferable as he seems?
No, it's worse. I'm
What?
kidding. I'm a little sister. I can say that.
That's right. All right. So yeah, that's it. And again, you can catch me and Lilith and the Capes Lunatics Podcast Network on Blue Sky. So
Skeet, skeet.
skeet, skeet. We're always looking for friends. All right, kids. So yeah, come back next time, and remember,
Join us live when we do Daredevil Born Again. Every
yeah, oh
Tuesday night.
yes, the devil you know, yes, yeah, the minutes, as if pretty much minutes after the episode drops, and Greg Wright's been joining us.
Well,
and
we got 2 this coming week, right? Again.
no, this
That's
week
the
is
week
the one
after that?
again. I think it's
Okay.
one 5 and 6. I think
5 and 6. Okay, got
so the week after, yeah. All right, kids. So yes, come back next time. Remember, watch out for that cream pie.